This issue focuses on basic issues involving individual versus group rights. And you know this is something that went all the way back to the first of the subperiods we talked about. Robert Coram, control of the individual on behalf of society. Again, both extremes are probably wrong. You got anarchy on one hand, you got fascism on the other side. We got social efficiency on one side, we got individualism on the other hand. Here's the communism, fascism versus anarchy and chaos. But what is right? Well, probably some happy medium somewhere. Concern was voiced that education would produce dupes of the government. In other words, people were criticizing the school because it was producing yes men and women. And that's not what education should do. This is from Paul Goodman's book, Compulsory Miseducation, published in 1964. Education must foster independent thought and expression rather than conformity. This sentiment was echoed in Postman and Weingartner's, and this book kind of became my Bible when I first got here, their 1968 Teaching as a Subversive Activity. Bertrand Russell, the British philosopher, weighed in. He said, education in citizenship, if it is wise, can retain what was best in individual culture. But if it is in any way short-sighted, it will stunt the individual in order to make him a convenient tool of the government. That same basic idea again. He added, the advocate of change must have a certain degree of imagination in order to be able to conceive of anything different from what exists. He must also have some power of judging the present from the standpoint of values. And since he cannot well be aware that the status quo has its advocates, he must realize that there are at least two views which are possible for a sane human being. And one of the things you may be asked to do in your oral defense is to take both sides of an issue. Surprisingly, that's difficult for some folks. They can definitely see one path, but they don't see how anyone else could disagree with that. Russell also observed that science, here we are back to science again, has developed a certain technique which is essentially a technique of discovery. That is to say, of change. The scientific frame of mind is, broadly speaking, that which facilitates discovery, not that which causes a man to have an unwavering belief in the present tenets of science. You see what's happening here? Russell warns that a well-educated citizen is likely to be incapable of discovery, since he will respect his elders and betters, reverence the great men of the past generation, and look with horror upon all subversive doctrines. So what these guys are trying to say is, we need the schools to produce free thinkers, not folks who will simply follow unquestioningly the status quo. Jerome Brunner, on down the road a bit, warned against a developing meritocracy in viewing a system of competition in which students are moved ahead and given further opportunities on the basis of their achievement, with position in later life increasingly and irreversibly determined by earlier school records. Well, Jerome, we've made it there. I mean, that's what we do in school. Well, who are we going to admit to college? Kids who were dropped out in the third grade? No, we admit the students who have the grades and who we think can do the work when they get here. We have a meritocracy. And unfortunately, if you mess up as a kid, it's awfully hard to get back in the right path. When I was teaching high school, we had average, honors, and basics classes. According to the rules, if you were in a basic class, you couldn't be given a grade higher than an 85. But yet the rules said to get into an average class, you had to have an average of 90. Now, how are you going to do that? The rules say I can't give you a grade higher than 85. In order to get into an average class, and this held for kids getting from honors getting from average into honors as well, you had to have five faculty, teachers, who were going to stand up and violate the rules by giving a kid the wrong grade, or a grade that was impossible for them to achieve. So once you got into a rut, you were there. And remember at the turn of the century, who is vocational education for? These people, these people, these people, talking about spotting students on the basis of probable destiny. Well, now we're doing it with grades. You mess up on one test and it could affect the rest of your life. Do I think that's fair? No, it's not fair. Do we have a way around it today? Yes, we do. They're called community colleges. Community colleges are, in essence, the school of last resort. The kids who have no entry path into high school can get in by going to a community college. I was not a good high school student. I had trouble with my eyes as a kid. My mom used to say Billy got all excellence in the first grade, and I did. That summer between first and second grade, I got scarlet fever, lost most of the vision in my right eye, which was my dominant eye. So I went back to second grade as a right-handed, left eye dominant kid. I couldn't verbalize that, but I knew that school was much, 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 much harder that year. I didn't sort that problem out until I probably became a junior in high school. So my grades prior to that time were terrible. I got into college because Buffalo State Teachers College, which was about my fifth choice, was the only one left standing before who knows what I would have done. The Friday before Monday enrollment, I got a phone call that said, in essence, "Hey boy, do you still want to come to college?" I said, "Yep." And the lady on the line said, "Okay, be at such and such a room at 8 o'clock Monday morning." I went there and there were 12 of us. We were the dirty dozen, the last 12 admitted. So I was the dregs of my freshman class. I was the only one of those 12 to graduate on time. I don't know if any others went on for advanced degrees or not, but I know that I was extremely lucky. Today, I don't know what would have happened to me. Probably would have gone to the local community college. Moving on, enough about me.